Yo, what up? It's your boy Drew. Just want to talk to you real quick before I hit these pull-ups, man. Yo, man, listen. I believe in asking questions. I believe in tough conversations. And and when I talk about asking questions, I mean asking questions because you actually don't know about something, or asking questions to put somebody in a trick bag. There's nothing wrong with that. There's literally nothing wrong with asking somebody questions to put them in a trick bag. Asking a question that you already know the answer to, a rhetorical question, but they may not know the answer to, but it's something that they spoke in absolutes about. So, and the reason I say that is because, man, you gain knowledge from doing that. You gain wisdom from doing that. When you ask questions or when you have tough discussions, because you don't know everything, and I'm a believer in the scripture. I'm a believer in Solomonic wisdom. I believe that Solomon was a very wise man in Israel. And he says, a false balance is an abomination to the Lord, but a just weight is his delight. And that wasn't just talking about the scales and balances that Israel used to in order to not cheat anybody out of their stuff. He's also talking about you just having this leaning to one side about things that's going on around you, right? So, tough conversations can balance somebody's leaning. So in the end, you're helping somebody. So if you put them in that trick bag because they spoke in ignorance about something that they don't know, and speaking in ignorance about something that you don't really know is really, really a false balance. It's really leaning to one side because of maybe how you've been socialized, how you've been taught something, but not something that you've necessarily experienced or have seen. So it'll be like me saying like somebody saying how terrible, I'm gonna just use the military for example, how terrible it is to be in the military and blah blah blah, but they've never actually enlisted into the military. Well, how do you know? You never had that experience. So how can you speak in absolutes about something that you've never experienced, or that you've never studied, or that you never delved into? That's the type of people that irritate me, and those are the type of people that you should ask those questions with the trick bags. And that's when you should have tough conversations, because if I've not lived your experience, why would I sit here and try to argue in absolutes about your experience? I could tell you about mine, you could tell me about yours, but we'll never know, because if I'm just speaking about mine and then you interrupt me to tell me that I'm wrong or that I don't know what I'm talking about, even though you've never experienced what I'm talking about, but I'm telling you in absolutes because I've actually experienced it, that's a problem, man. And I think tough discussions have to be had in order for people to grow. Why? Because if you say something that I know nothing about, I can go back and study it up, look it up, pray about it. I pray about stuff. I go to my prayer closet. Same thing with you. If I've said something in our discussion that you knew nothing about, but initially you were speaking you were speaking in absolutes about, then I'm gonna give you something to think about and go back and study and look up and pray about, if that's what you do. So instead of like having this heated argument, like almost where you feel like you want to come to blows about something that you spoke in absolutes about that you know nothing about, how about you just listen? Listening is a great tool. I think that's why uh people like myself and then other people that I know, we get along so well, because even if I disagree with you, I sit back and listen to you. Sit back and let you talk for 10 minutes straight. And when you get done, I'm hoping that you will give me the same courtesy to let me speak, because I may have some gems for you, just like you may have dropped some gems for me in your conversation. But when you come on and you blame shift, blame shifting, I'm just going all over the place, but stick with me. Blame shifting is a tactic used for people who either feel guilty or they're supporting a guilty party. That's blame shifting, because there's so much guilt in what's going on that you're going to try to point the attention to something totally different that was wrong as well. So instead of taking accountability for what's going on right now, you're going to say, "Oh no, it's like, okay, my little brother hit me last week, but I never really dealt with it, with my parents. But this week, I smacked him up, and he went and said something. But when my parents hear about it and they're ready to punish me, and I'm going back and saying, well, what about what he did to me last week? Well, you never told us what happened last week. You never told us that he popped you in the back of your head. So why are you blame shifting? If you would have said something about it back then maybe he would have gotten in trouble. But we talking about something that's also building a straw man. We talking about something that's happening right now, yet you want to go back and talk about something that happened 8 months ago, as if to take the sting out of what's going on right now. No, it's wrong. And then you can't make it a monolith. Like, if certain people were doing things at a demonstration to taint what was going on at the demonstration by doing other things that were not admonished by the demonstrators, okay, that has nothing to do with the people who were actually there for a good reason. So anyway, I don't want to dive too deep into all that stuff. I'm just saying, let's have tough conversations. Let's ask questions, and let's ask questions that put people in trick bags, because it gives them something to think about. If those trick questions are used correctly, they are a good tool. They are a good tool. And that is not being deceitful. That is trying to help somebody, actually. It is trying to help somebody to open their eyes to certain things, to point a light at certain situations. Because some things will be dark in people's minds or in people's eyes until you can actually point it out to them. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know your experience, you don't know mine, unless we actually talk about it. Unless we have a conversation, a tough conversation. Because tough conversations can balance out people's leanings. And when things are balanced out, we have a better existence. Balance is required in every aspect of life, man. We need balance in every aspect of life. If you lean too far to one side, it's going to jack something up. It's going to jack up the balance. You got to have balance, man. Got to. If you have muscle imbalances, your body doesn't work properly. You have to have balance. If your muscles are balanced out, your body's going to move properly. Got to have balance. Anyway, the takeaway from my rambling here is tough conversations, tough questions. Pick somebody's brain. Let them pick yours. If you don't know the answer, don't be prideful, man. Admit that you don't know the answer. Admit it. It's not a big deal. Admitting that you don't know the answer is not going to kill you. But if you have pride, then you'll never admit it. You never admit that I never experienced that. I'm sorry that I spoke out of turn or I spoke out of ignorance. You'll never do that because you have pride. Most High hates pride, though. He does. So, just get rid of pride. Some tough conversations are gonna hurt your feelings. You're gonna feel your heart beating out your chest because you're starting to get upset. But some of that stuff is correction and conviction. And you'll have your heart poked sometimes when you experience a good correction. If you correct somebody, though, your correction better be correct. Don't come trying to correct nobody with nonsense. You gotta know what you're talking about, man. Don't just be correcting somebody just because you feel like you can correct them. Correct them because it's the right thing to do at that time. Anyway, man, I'm rambling. I love y'all. Deuces.